I was interested if you could give us an account, a further account, of what happens during the course of your performance, 14-hour performance of one of these works. What does it feel like? What's the experience of time? You said things seem to speed up. I wonder if that happens for the, quote, audience.
Well, no.
Well, what is your report of what it
From
feels like
having gone there?
To do this?
No, that's a great question. It's, as I said, the first time I did it, I didn't know if I could do it. It was at UC Davis. It began at 4 p.m. and ended at 6 a.m.
How did you prepare to begin?
Well, I had a bit of a cold, so I didn't know if my voice would hold up, but I really wanted to try to read it myself. And the
Did you know it would last that long? Did you try to estimate how many hours it would take?
I thought it might, but it was funny. You know, I came in with the manuscript. You know, on another photograph on jacket too is the photograph of these manuscript pages, typescript pages, on a small table in my living room. And now there are, and so each 1,000 pages about this tall, and so two of them are this tall. There's one on top of another, and then there's a third one, and then the fourth one is almost 1,000 pages. So there's a sense of duration in time along the timeline of years, and there's a sense of duration in space, the physicality. These pages are piling up. And I question what to do with all this stuff is a problem, you know. Thank goodness for Eclipse and so on. But
That's
I
fairly
didn't know.
straightforward, the whole sense of the presence. Those are at least four-dimensional. I mean,
You know, I was thinking about the grid. On the cover of this book is an Agnes Martin painting called The Sea, which I found, I was telling Francie, but I found it was at the Pace, and it was able to get it for the cover. And so the sea is nice, but the sense of the grid. So there's a horizontal line as the timeline, and the sense of time. And then there's the vertical line, which is, you know, and the poems are often sort of dealing with, and the lines on the page are looking like, especially I think in this work, you know, there's the sense of the line as the grid and the horizontal. But
do you have an experience when
But-
you're performing this work that you're entering?
no, I
this
wanted to. I didn't
continuum
get to that. Yeah, when I started this most recent one in February, it's in the Mills Art Museum. It started at 8 and it was going to end at 10. It was going to be like the ending would be a concert. You know, we thought maybe people would come. It was a Saturday. It's the first time to do one in the Bay Area. I thought people I know might be able to come to this because the other one was Santa Cruz and in the Museum of Art and History. A lot of people came, but I hardly knew anybody. So, you start to get into it, but something does begin to take over. And I felt as though it was a table smaller than this I was sitting at in this museum. I felt as though I couldn't leave the table because musicians are all around in this large room sort of doing improvisatory. It's very interesting.
The table couldn't leave the table either.
No, but...
I mean, everything else in the room was in the room.
You know, it becomes a kind of trance-like meditative experience where you just go on and you're just looking at the page and reading it. At UC Davis in the middle of the night at one point, I realized I was the only person awake in the room. There was one light overhead like this, smaller, shining onto this small table.
Were you
And the
awake?
musicians were not playing and they were snoring. I could hear them.
It was being recorded.
It was recorded, yeah. And
Exactly.
no, well, I don't know if, it seemed as, I thought I was. I felt as if I was just reading to myself in a dark room, and it was kind of perfect. You know, the work became completely solipsistic, and it was very bizarre. But
Did your reading style change? Did your voice change, or were you locked into the mode that you'd been
you kind of
reading
get locked into this mode where I find, a little bit last night, I find myself getting into a certain pace and a rhythm when I say, light coming into the sky above still dark ridge, and it kind of goes down. It's almost like a bird song.
Yeah.
And I found myself in February, you know, page after page, these, especially in the, anyway, there's, but at the end of doing Temporality in February, I knew I was trying to aim to end it at 10 o'clock, so I sort of I've learned how to say, do 100 pages, how long it would take, okay? And so at about 9:30, I think I had only 25 pages to go, and I'd taken a little break. I hadn't left the table for about 3 hours, and I had a little water. I was resting my voice, and they were playing, and I thought I better start in again. And so I thought maybe I came in too early because they were pretty loud. But then they sort of went down into a very quiet mode, and I was just reading sort of by myself, and there was a little bit of koto sound or something, these Japanese and hand-built instruments that they were doing. And it became very intense, and I was exhausted, and at the end I was just like physically shaking. You know, it was very, yeah, it's definitely a kind of, it's a strange space to go into to.
And your voice must have been exhausted by the end too. Hoarse.
I don't know if it was hoarse, but
No.
it had survived.
Yes.
You know, I couldn't. I was just feeding on water at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like doing a forced march in the desert or something.